Friday evening, Mineola, Long Island. Robert Maraj, Nicki Minaj's father, 64 years old, was walking along Roslyn Road when a car hit him. It was 6:15 at night. Nothing unusual about the street, nothing unusual about the evening. A neighbor who lived right there came outside after hearing the commotion and found him on the ground, jacket torn open. He was rushed to the hospital that night. He died the next morning. Now here's where this goes from tragic to something else entirely. The driver didn't flee immediately in a panic. He stopped, got out of the car, walked over to Robert, who was lying on the ground, stood over him, and asked if he was okay. Then he turned around, got back in the car, and drove away. No 911 call. No, waiting for help. Just gone. When he got home, he pulled the car, a white 1992 Volvo station wagon, into his garage and covered it with a tarp. That detail tells you everything you need to know about the mindset here. Panic looks like driving away and calling someone in a frenzy. This looked like going home, thinking it over, and deciding to hide the evidence. Those are two completely different things. Detectives got to work pulling surveillance footage from around the area, cameras before the crash, cameras after, and pieced the route together until it led directly to a house in Mineola. The car was sitting right there in the garage, covered up, exactly where the driver had left it. His name was Charles Polovich, 70 years old. He ran a water purification and drilling business based in Guam, splitting time between there and Long Island. No major criminal history. Just a businessman who made a series of decisions that evening that unraveled over the next 5 years in courtrooms across Nassau County. He surrendered to police a few days after the crash. The surveillance trail had already connected the car to his home, and turning himself in was the only move left. He was charged with 2 counts, leaving the scene of a fatal accident, and tampering with physical evidence. He pleaded not guilty, was released on a $250,000 bond, and was ordered to stay in New York State. Nicki Minaj didn't make any public statement right away. When she did eventually speak, it was through a post on her personal website. She wrote that losing her father was the most devastating loss of her life, that she kept reaching for her phone to call him, that the urge got stronger after he was gone, not weaker. Her relationship with her father had never been simple, and she had spoken about that publicly years before his death. Growing up, Robert struggled with crack cocaine addiction and was abusive toward her mother. There were periods where things got dangerous enough that the family genuinely feared for Carol's life. Nicki said she was angry at him for most of her childhood. He did eventually get sober, and the relationship shifted over time. But that history existed, and it would later become a weapon in the hands of Polovich's legal team. More on that shortly. About a month after Robert died, his widow Carol Maraj filed a civil lawsuit against Polovich seeking $150 million in damages. The suit landed in Nassau County Supreme Court and was filed by attorneys Ben Crump and Paul Napoli, both well-known names in high-profile wrongful death cases. Crump said publicly that Polovich hadn't just been careless. He said the man had been more focused on running and hiding than on helping someone he had just struck with his car. More than a year after the crash, Polovich walked into court and changed his plea to guilty on both counts, leaving the scene of a fatal accident and tampering with physical evidence. No trial, no fight. He admitted to it. At the time of the plea, Nassau County Judge Howard Sturm made a sentencing commitment on the record. No more than 1 year in jail. Prosecutors had pushed for 1 to 3 years and made no effort to hide their frustration. The DA's office released a statement saying that given the severity of Polovich's conduct, they disagreed with the court's sentencing cap. When the actual sentencing hearing arrived, Polovich's attorney tried one more time to reduce the number. He asked for 90 days. He raised the possibility of a heart-related medical issue that may have affected Polovich's judgment at the time of the crash. He pointed to road conditions that night, nearby construction, streetlights that weren't working, suggesting factors beyond just Polovich's driving had contributed to what happened. The judge wasn't moved. 1 year in jail, a $5,000 fine, 6 months without a license. Exactly what had been committed at the plea. Polovich spoke in court that day, said he had been heartsick since grasping the full weight of what happened, said there was no excuse for his behavior. Carol Maraj also spoke. She told the court that Polovich had left her husband lying in the street like he was nothing. She called the 1 year sentence a slap in the face for her family. And given that prosecutors had been pushing for more time and couldn't get it, even they weren't in a position to argue with her. 1 year. That's what the criminal case produced. A man hit a 64-year-old, watched him lying on the ground, drove home, covered his car with a tarp, and served 12 months. The civil lawsuit was a separate fight, and it dragged on much longer, with a twist that became its own controversy. At some point during the civil proceedings, Polovich's legal team moved to subpoena Nicki Minaj. They wanted to depose her, sit her down under oath, and ask her questions specifically about her music, about lyrics she had written over the years referencing her childhood, her upbringing, her parents' relationship. The strategy wasn't subtle. They wanted to use Nicki's own words to argue that Carol and Robert's marriage was troubled and distant. Because if they could paint the marriage as unhappy, they could argue that Carol's claim for loss of companionship wasn't worth the kind of damages she was seeking. Reduce the emotional value of the marriage, reduce the payout. So the man who killed Nicki Minaj's father was combing through her discography to save himself money in a lawsuit filed by her mother. The deposition never happened. Nicki was never brought in. The subpoena effort didn't go through, and the civil case moved forward without her. But the attempt alone said a lot about how far Polovich's side was willing to go. After years of proceedings, the criminal conviction, the jail time, the subpoena attempt, the back-and-forth legal maneuvering, the two sides finally reached a settlement. Court documents confirmed the deal was finalized in March. The civil lawsuit Carol had filed years earlier was officially closed. The settlement amount was never disclosed. Terms stayed private, which is standard but still leaves the obvious question unanswered. What the documents did show was that Carol had been seeking damages for the loss of her husband's companionship, the everyday absence of the person she had built a life with, suddenly gone because of choices someone else made on a Friday evening. Whatever figure both sides agreed to, they signed off and walked away. Nicki has said nothing publicly about the settlement. No statement, no post, nothing. There's one detail that keeps coming back when you look at this entire case from the outside. Investigators noted early on that if Polovich had simply stayed at the scene and called 911 after the collision, he most likely would not have faced criminal charges at all. The crash itself, the impact, may well have been treated as an accident. The road had construction nearby, streetlights weren't working properly. His own attorney made those arguments in court. Polovic didn't stay. He checked on Robert, saw him on the ground, got back in the car, drove home, and hid the vehicle under a tarp. That sequence of choices is what built the criminal case. That's what produced the guilty plea on 2 charges. That's what cost him a year in jail, a fine, and years of civil litigation that ended in a private settlement. Every single legal consequence he faced came directly from what he chose to do after the crash, not the crash itself. Carol Maraj lived through all of it. She lost her husband on a Saturday morning, filed a $150 million lawsuit. Weeks later, sat in a criminal courtroom and watched the man who left her husband on the street walk away with a 1-year sentence, and then spent more years fighting a civil case, including watching Polovich's lawyers attempt to use her own daughter's music against her. Robert Maraj was 64 years old. He was walking near his home on a Friday evening. A car hit him. The driver looked at him on the ground, said something to him, and drove away. Robert died in a hospital the next morning. His daughter said it was the most devastating loss of her life. His wife spent years in courtrooms demanding accountability. The driver served 1 year, paid a fine, and settled the civil case for an amount the public will never know. 5 years. That's how long it took to close every legal chapter on a crash that lasted a matter of seconds. And when it was all over, no press conference, no public statement, no announcement, just a court filing that said the case was done, and silence from everyone involved. That's where it ended.